the medicine woman.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My voice is very hoarse. I've kind of filmed all my first, this is the fifth video I filmed today, all of them all at once. But then let's get back to the topic at hand, and we're going to be talking about the differences between perversion versus sex positive. The reason I say this is because someone who is very passionate about sex likes to talk about sex, who I believe I like to say I'm very sex positive. We need to bring back the word pervert. I think there's a line between the two, and the line between the two, especially in looking at it within the negative context of perversion, is obviously consent, exploitation, objectification, and dehumanization. I think is kind of what would kind of differentiate between those two experiences and those who perpetuated, who are victims of perversion, and those who are perpetrators of it. Um, Before we talk about perversion, I think we need to look at the history. I think this is something I try to do my best to be as much researched with. So we're going to discuss why we live in a world where there isn't a balance. This is a very spiritual channel. I believe in finding and seeking balance in everything that we do. And the fact we live in a society where there is not a balance between purity culture and then like perversion or whatever is because when we're taught about sex, we're not taught about how to do it healthily and how to live about it balanced. And one of the culprits of this is purity culture. So by definition, could have put the definition by the side where I put it. Purity culture is a set of beliefs, practices, and norms that promote sexual abstinence before marriage. It originated in the 1990s as the movement led by white evangelical organizations and leaders. I'm sorry, why I can't read this right. I need glasses. I should read it with glasses, but I've been bullied for wearing glasses my entire life. And that's why I'm just reading it and I'm bastardizing all the words there. So, purity culture is very prevalent within our society, and I've noticed it kind of seep onto the left. And it is very, I think it's like even when there's any topic or conversation surrounding sex, surrounding sexuality, it's talked about again in kind of words that these evangelical, like puritanical, right leaning Christians would discuss it. If we can't talk about sex, then we can't destigmatize it. If we can't discuss sex, then we can't leave open doors for people to kind of discuss things, say experiences they have, and kind of heal from the way that sex has kind of like been a weapon of, in many ways, many cultures, many places across the world, a weapon of control, a weapon of objectification, and a weapon of overall dehumanization. We need to get to the point where we can discuss sex and talk about sex because most of us have it except the asexuals. And they do have, some of them do have sex, but depending on which ones we're discussing, most of us have sex. Most of us have the desire to have sex, and it's something we need to discuss. I think a lot of people should be allowed to discuss, and I think there should be space for conversations about it. And that's where I'm gonna go into, and that's why I brought it up in the video. Um, in a sexual context, so we're gonna talk about sex positive. I label myself as a freak. I'm not gonna go into details because none of you are my sexual partners, but the definition of a freak, and it's gonna come and make sense in the video. In a sexual context, a freak generally refers to someone who is considered to have unusually intense or unconventional sexual appetite, often implying desire for unusual sexual practices or a high level of sexual activity, and can sometimes be used in a derogatory way depending on the context. Yeah, so I'd say there's a difference between that and a pervert as well. I think sometimes someone who is freaky, like Tanashi said, is somebody gonna match my freak, somebody gonna match my nasty, is someone who's willing to kind of push the boundary sexually, try different things, a trisexual. One person I kind of look up to, I felt like I always looked up to as a kid, but no one, I was just like never, like, everyone would have looked upon me weirdly, not because I up in a religious household. The family members I'm the most closest to are my mom and sister, and they're not as hypersexual as I am. I kind of suspect that both of them are demisexual, but I've always been that way. I didn't have much people to relate to since I kind of had friends as well who were hypersexual and kind of understood why I loved sex and intimacy and pleasure in that way. Like for me, that's my drug. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't. What's the word? Also a former sex addict, by the way. So in my previous video, but I'm just maybe someone comes across it. I don't do any substances or anything, not even weed. It's just like that's what I do. I do it safely. And you know what? There's a website I'm gonna link. I'm gonna put there. I don't know what it is, but everyone, if you're watching from the UK, you need to. If you're having sex, you need to sign up for this. It will give you free STI testing. You need to make sure you're having sex safe. I'm gonna put it right there. Sign up right now. It's not a game. This is your life. If you're gonna have sex, do it safely. But there is a difference between a freak and a pervert, and I'm not gonna go into details because we got to leave some things for ourselves, but there's a big difference. There's a big, for me, I would say a freak is someone I'd say who is very passionate about sex. I'm very passionate about it. I'm as someone who's very like, I like to pleasure other people as well. I'm very passionate about like the sensory spring. One thing I want to get into is tantra. I've never just had the opportunity to get into it. Just overall, like seeing how the body and how like the senses kind of like are just stimulated when sexual sexual situations are happening. I'm passionate about it. I love sex, but there's a difference between that and then being a pervert. So the term sexual perversion first came into use in the 19th century to describe erotic practices taken by psychologists to lie outside the bounds of healthy, emotional, mature, or sane behavior. Right, that's where the word perversion came from, and it's why like we've kind of strayed away from the word because of its problematic history. And in this video I'm going to be discussing that. I understand that it can be very triggering for some, so you can skip away from that or kind of not watch the video if that's something you're interested in. So with the key points of how it kind of came about in the 19th and early 20th centuries, homosexuality was classified as a mental illness or moral failing and was grouped with concepts of perversion. So we've kind of associated both of them for a very long time with one another until about the second point, until kind of there were medical and psychological shifts, and the American Psychiatric Association, the APA, removed homosexuality from the DSM and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders in 1973. And because that was just like done and science kind of did that, we removed it from there. And third point, some religious and conservative groups continue to frame homosexuality as a deviation from natural sexuality, though it is widely contested. Although the modern consensus now is leading medical and psychological institutions affirm that homosexuality is a natural variation of human sexuality and not linked to perversion. So, what is perversion at its best? Like looking at it objectively without kind of putting all the biases about it, at least in my opinion, is sexual deviancy. And sexual deviancy is sexual behavior, like I've said before, that is takes apart or takes a part in dehumanizing other people as they're having sex with them. A video I made before, degrading them as they're having sex with them, preying on minors, doing any sexual activities where minors are there, and just dehumanizing and exploiting that person and all this. That is perverse behavior. So I'm going to so to kind of get you to see what that looks like, I'm going to show you my examples of perverse behavior. It's subjective. I may change my mind. I'm only 22, but this is how what I feel very strongly about is perverse behavior. Actively going after people in committed relationships, I think is very perverse. It's like there's a difference between like them coming after you and then you find out they're together, or they're coming after you and then you just happen to have sex with them. That's different. I know a specific people who will actively go after people in committed relationships. It's unethical. I think it's a fine line. The reason why I may say it's my opinion is because I think it's more unethical than perverse, but it's not right. I would put it there in baby. I put it there in the sexual deviancy. You know what? There is a difference. I think I would say there's a difference between sexual deviant behavior and perverse behavior. I wouldn't say that's sexually deviant. Having any sort of sexual activity where children are knowingly present or involved is perverse. I don't care what it is, especially sometimes where they wait till the person's 18, whatever. It's perverted behavior, pervert. Let's bring the word back. Let's call it what it is. Any sexual activity that involves, I'm sorry, are we good? Okay. Any sexual activity that involves extreme degradation of other people, especially if you're more privileged than them, is perverse behavior. You're pervert. All the race plays and all the just like degradation of women and all that kind of stuff is disgusting. Like, y'all need to stop doing that. Like, and you may think it's okay, but you are taking advantage of exploiting another person and it's unethical. Fetishing people's identities. So whether it's their race, their gender identity, their weight, it's not okay. The chubby chasers, the trans chasers, men who degrade women during sex, the people who involve themselves with race play, it's not right. You're a pervert. Stop doing that. It's not okay. It's unethical. It's not right. Any sexual activity that causes grievous bodily harm. For me, as someone who like sometimes likes pain during sex, there's a difference between like liking it painful and grievous bodily harm. I need y'all to look at grievous bodily harm and understand why it is a very serious crime. Someone spanking you, or for example, the reason why for me I think a lot of women like big dicks is because it's slightly painful. There's like someone slap it. Like, I just want to distinguish that, like, if you like someone smacking you or slapping you or just spanking you or whatever, that's different from grievous bodily harm. I think people need to understand what that is. And sometimes these sexual experiences you see, sometimes in porn, which can be very disgusting, is grievous bodily harm. And they should be fucking arrested because there's no reason you should leave having sex and you're bleeding and you have bruises and you have like very intense wounds all over your body. It's not all right. It's not okay. And it's perverse. Um, of course, obviously, unconsensual sexual behaviors. So this includes coercing others into sexual activity, using your wealth, position, age, size, or privilege to subdue them during sexual activity is perverse. Stop it. The normal way to have sex is you meet someone who is over the age of whatever, over the age of 18, and they have sex, and you have sex with that person. It's very simple. What else? Um, Sexualizing minors. Of course, bestiality is not okay. I didn't even realize how normal it was in certain places. My friend told me that people would just be doing it about with donkeys. Necrophilia is gross. It's a shame that amount of men that can't work in what's it called, in where the coroners keep dead bodies, whatever that place is, funeral homes, because of that. It's disgusting. Having sex with people who are extremely drunk. It may be subjective. It may be something that is subjective to you. It's not okay. Stop having sex with people who are even drunk. But I put extremely drunk because then again, I don't know. I would never have sex with anyone who is drunk, so it's not to say I'm justifying it, but I just don't want to label anything, like label anyone anything without it being extreme, because the word perversion is something that, is a very extreme word. Blackmailing others into sex is perverse. You cannot blackmail someone into having sex with you. It's wrong, and you cannot use whatever lateral collateral damage you have against them to then have sexual favors. What happened to hi, hello, will you have sex with me? And then you have sex. It's very simple. Consent isn't hard. Do that. Sexual harassment, catcalling is perverse. And the moment we start calling this behavior what it is, you're a pervert. And it's different when I don't think it's different. I'm not even going to go into justifying it. Catcalled many times, harassed many times. It's perverse. You're a pervert. I need to call it what it is. Extremely sexualizing complete fucking strangers to their face is weird. Even if sometimes if it's okay, there's a difference between like hey sexy and just like going about extremely sexualizing strangers. It's not right. I think it's perverse. stop doing it. So there is a difference between perversion and being sex positive. Being sex positive, you can go, and I'm not going to go into detail because this isn't that kind of video. There are many ways you can be sex positive, and there are many ways that people kind of express their sexuality in a nuanced and in a very, what's the word? In a very consensual, ethical way. The moral ethics as it pertains to sex is very simple. It's why I don't need to go into detail. I've said it before. It's very simple. I'm very tired. Thank you all for watching this video. It's your medicine woman, Ashra. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe to my Patreon and make sure to look at the videos underneath. Look at the links underneath, donate to them. And thank you all so much. I love you all.